Oh my god, Venus is gonna be in the video. I look like Coconut Head. Oh, I don't know if I'm making sense, honestly, because I had a lot of caffeine today. Hello there, my name is Ariel, and if you're new to this channel, I am making book videos and writing videos and bullet journaling videos because that is what I do with my entire life. So today we are talking about books that Book of the Month rated as their like Book of the Year finalists. And originally I was gonna do this book with all 20 nominations because I had read a good amount of them. I had read like 10 already because I guess I pick good books. But then I was like, no, that's insane. So I'm just doing it with the top 5 that they have put out as the top 5 books of the month. Now Book of the Year, yeah, Book of the Year nominations. Book of the Month, you should really sponsor this small, not really even growing channel just because aren't I a delight? That's your first reason, because Ariel is a delight. Second of all, she will ramble on about how much she loves Book of the Month, because I do. And she'll make curated videos specifically just for Book of the Month. Okay, now that I have said my application to be a Book of the Month, so I say subscriber, I already am that, sponsor. We'll get on with the video. 5 books have been nominated for the Book of the Year, and on November 11th, I think, they're gonna announce what the ultimate Book of the Year is. And so I thought I would give my opinion on all 5, and especially because, so I read all of these books throughout the year. I think I chose all of them for my like book that month, except for one of them that I bought recently. And so they stood out to me, and I thought they'd be good books. Some of them were, some of them weren't. Let's get into it. I know which one I'm going to rate the worst, and I think I know which one I'm going to rate the best. And then the other 3 just kind of mix in the middle. Okay, I'm gonna talk about these books in no particular order. We're just gonna go through them based on what I grabbed. So, oh, look, here's the first one. This is The Lost Apothecary by Sarah Penner. And this was one of the books that I chose for, what month was this? March of 2021. And this was a debut book by Sarah Penner, and it was lovely. I loved this book. I need to grab my reading journal. I got it. Okay. All right, so this book is what got me back into reading. A pandemic happened and I wasn't reading at all, and for like a year I didn't read anything. So I found out about Book of the Month and I bought my first book, and it was bad, the first book that I got. Probably I'll do like a worst books I've read this year, and that one will definitely be in it. But we're not going to talk about that one right now. We're going to talk about the first good book. And this was the next month. I bought The Lost Apothecary, and it got me out of my reading slump. From here on out, I was like reading at least a book a week, which is insane for me because I'm a very slow reader. This is a fantasy book, which I'm normally not into fantasy, but I think I would classify this as, yes, fantasy, but also like kind of historical fiction. It has tones of historical fiction, and that's probably my favorite genre. So what this book is it goes from 2 different timelines, the present and the past. And in the present timeline, there's this woman who is in London for what would have been her like anniversary present of like 10 years, but she finds out that her husband cheated on her, but she's like, I'm still gonna take this trip because I've been wanting to go to London. She's like a historian, she loves London and all of that British stuff. So she goes to London, and from there, her little historian brain starts finding clues about this secretive little part of the past that no one knows about. I think that's a good description. So then the other part of the story is it goes back in time to the history that she's trying to uncover and how it actually rolled out. And it's called The Lost Apothecary because it's about this apothecary in London that this woman made. And she makes poisons to poison men. Ooh, yeah. So it's very fun, but then of course in both timelines trouble happens and drama ensues as it does, and it was just so good. All the characters I loved. I fell in love with both storylines. The ending was amazing. The writing, just the description, it made you feel like you were in London. I've never been to London. I don't really know much about London, but now I feel like I have been transported there because of this. It was so good. Also, just the bonds between the characters in the past storyline are just so cute, and I feel like there was no flaws in this book, like not one flaw. I rated it a 5-star because of that. It was a book that I still think about. It will just pop in my mind and I'm like, dang, that was a good book. And the ending, I've seen reviews where people complain about it and saying it was like kind of a cop-out ending. I'm obviously not gonna give it away, but I liked it. It's a fantasy book, so it's not all gonna be realistic. That's all I'm gonna say about that. Then let's look at my reading journal. So if you watched my last video, you know that I have a journal that I keep all of my reviews and stuff in for books because it's fun and because it seems easier for me to keep track of stuff in a journal than it would be to keep track of it online in a place like Goodreads. I don't know why, it's more fun this way. So this is my reading journal spread for it. How cute, right? I gave it a 5 out of 5 and I said, great blend of mystery. Oh yeah, there was a lot of mystery in it. And history and contemporary fiction. Okay, I wasn't good at making reviews at this point because it was very early on. And I didn't write down any quotes or anything. But that's fine. It was a great book and it stuck with me, and this is definitely going to be in the top half of the books in this video. Either number 1, number 2, or number 3. I don't know, but definitely top 3 for book of the year. Next book we're going to talk about is Malibu Rising by Taylor Jenkins Reid. This one was so popular. It was so talked about. I feel like everybody knows what this book is, but if you don't, it's about this family. It's connected kind of to, all of her books are kind of connected, like the characters appear. So it's about Mick Riva's children, and they have this party every summer where people come to their beach house in Malibu and it gets crazy and there's a bunch of celebrities there and everything. So this book, half of it, the second half centers on this party. The first half centers on the past. So Mick Riva's life and the children's lives growing up. So I think that's where a bit of the problem with this book comes in, because I've heard a lot of people that really liked the second half of the book and were expecting that to be the whole book, because that was what it was advertised as. I'm pretty sure, like the little blurb here, I'm not gonna read it all, but I'm pretty sure it kind of just focuses on the party aspect. And then there were people that just liked the first half and didn't really like when it divulged into the party. And I definitely was of that group. I really loved the first half. It felt very similar to The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo, which is one of my favorite books. And it just was so good. And you just really felt connected to each of the characters and understood their plot and everything. And then it went to the second half with the children and the party, and there was just so much going on, so many new characters, that you did feel like you were at a party. Like, it was very well written, very well done, but it just, I don't know. I feel like I just loved the first half so much that I wanted more of that. And then when they added new characters, it got blurry, and the ending I really didn't like. Just compared to Daisy Jones and the Six and Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo, this one really let me down. But it was still a good read nonetheless, and Taylor Jenkins Reid is a great author, so can't complain on that front. Okay, I gave it a 4 out of 5. I think that's because I loved the beginning so much. And it was a very good book. But anyway, this is my little spread. Oceany. And so I said 4 out of 5, loved the beginning, but the second half of the book wasn't great. Too many characters and the plot got boring. Great writing still. So yeah, still stand by that. And then I wrote a quote. Let me see if this quote is good, because sometimes I be writing stupid quotes. Oh, this was a good quote. Okay, this is long, but it was so good. So, maybe our parents' lives are imprinted within us. Maybe the only fate there is the temptation of reliving their mistakes. Maybe, try as we might, we will never be able to outrun the blood that runs through our veins. So good, right, Venus? Did you hear that? It was so good. Anyway, such a good quote, such good writing. Like, there's things like that you're just like, yeah, yes, Taylor. So yeah, rated it 4 out of 5. But I think it'll fall within the lower half, because the next 2 books, actually, I don't know if I'll talk about them next. I think it'll fall in the lower half though, because 2 of the other books were definitely 5 stars. So automatically this is 4th or 5th. It is 4th. I know which one I didn't like the most. So this one is definitely going to be 4th on the list from best to worst. Or not best to worst, but this is all just my opinion. Don't get mad if that was your favorite book you read this year, okay? We're all different. Next book, I'm saving the one that I'm going to rate first and the one I'm going to rate 5th for last. So we're gonna do a middle tier book, which is Razor Blade Tears by, who's this by? S.A. Cosby. Yeah. So this was a thriller, which this was the first thriller book that I read this year, and I read it with my friends who are very into thriller, and I used to not really be into thriller, but now after this book and some other books that I've read this year, I am on the thriller bandwagon. And this book was just so good. I just keep saying that, it was so good. But it was. So it takes place in Virginia, first of all, which is fun because that's where I live. I recognized places that they were talking about, which was fun. So it follows these two dads that go to get revenge on the killers of their sons. So they don't know who the killers are, so they're trying to figure that out, why they did it. Their sons are also gay, and since they are from Virginia and in like the middle of nowhere Virginia, then they're a bit homophobic. So it's about them kind of, even though they, oh no, my camera's about to die. Okay, my camera died, but we're back. So, book. So along the way, they learn how to be more tolerant and like really look back on like their sons and how good of people they were. And just the character arc in this book is incredible. It's beyond not any, but it's a very good character arc for the main two characters. And I think that's something that I really look for in a book, and what I think honestly both of the last two were lacking. Even The Lost Apothecary, that might be the one thing that it was kind of lacking. Like the character kind of grew, but not a lot. But anyway, this one, the character arc was amazing. The mystery in it, so good. I sort of predicted what would happen, like who the killer was, but there were so many other little mysteries that were thrown in that I didn't catch, that it made up for knowing like the big surprise. And I didn't even realize that until further in than you might be able to guess it. So it was just so good. I'm gonna show you my reading journal. This spread, oddly, after I did it, I was like, this looks like Texas, which is weird because it took place in Virginia, but it kind of gives a Texas vibe. If that it doesn't make sense, Ariel, but that's Razor Blade Tears. Yeah, so I gave it a 5 out of 5, of course. And I said no faults in this writing, story, and character development, especially that character development, so good. And it did have some gory scenes that I was kind of cringing through, but if you're into that, like kind of more horror, gore, then they got it, because they like chopped up bodies and grinded them. So I'm gonna read the quotes for this book. So the first one is, it didn't matter who they were lying down with at night, just as long as they were waking up. So based on what I've told you so far, you can kind of understand that quote. So good. And then, when the people you love are gone, it's the things they've touched that keep them alive in your mind. So true. So true. So good. I think this book, I'm gonna put it second. There, I said it. I'm gonna rate it second as my favorite book. So that means The Lost Apothecary is third, and then fourth is Malibu Rising. So now we're on to the best book of the year for me, and then my least favorite of the nominations. So, ready? What do you think this is? My favorite or my least favorite? Take a guess. Wrong, it's my least favorite. Yeah, I didn't like this. Sorry, Emily Henry. So this is People We Meet on Vacation by Emily Henry. And I got very into contemporary romance this year. So I was very excited for this book. It has a cute cover. It involves vacation, and I read it in the summer, and it also involves traveling. So I thought I'd love it. But first of all, it was a fault on my part because I realized I don't really like the friends to lovers trope very much. I think because I just don't follow that in my personal life. I don't like to know you before I start dating you. That's how I con men into my life. And also it had the thing, this annoys me, when they're friends, but then they have significant others, but they continue to like talk and flirt and be like about to kiss when they have significant others. Ugh. It's just so cringy, and I don't like when that happens. The main character, Poppy, she is a travel blogger, and this is Alex, her friend, who they're like both in love with each other or whatever, and they go on these trips that her like work pays for because she's a travel blogger, and they explore new places while meeting people. That's why it's called People on Vacation. We meet on vacations because they meet people, and I liked that concept. And I did enjoy reading the parts that were not in the present, when they were like flashing back to them traveling. That was so fun. But the characters were insufferable. I hated them so much. Poppy was the like quirky pick-me girl, and I hate that. I like quirky characters in books. Like Christina Lauren has a book called like Josh and Hazel's Guide to Not Dating, something like that, and Hazel is super quirky, but it feels authentic to her. This one, it just felt like Poppy was a pick-me girl. And then it would have been better if I was like, okay, yeah, she's kind of meh, but then the guy is so fun, like, love reading his side of it. No, he was very boring. There was really like nothing to him. I didn't know why she was falling for him. I didn't know why he was there. He felt very bleh to me. And I think that was partially also because there was never point of view from his side. I think there was like a half a chapter in here that was from his point of view. So the whole time you felt like Poppy was kind of chasing after him, and there was no feelings back from him because we never got to see his point of view. So I think that was a miss on Emily Henry's part. And it was very sad because I loved Beach Read. It was my favorite romance book of this year that I read. So it's kind of weird that this is my least favorite romance book and the other one is my favorite. I feel like that's never happened with one author. Look at this cute spread. How adorable. I did like the scenes where they saw their families. I liked both of their families, just not them. Okay, so I rated it 4 out of 5 stars, but this was one of the first books that I read this year. So I think I wasn't really sure how to do ratings at that point. So I'm gonna change that to a 3 out of 5, because it definitely was not a 2 or a 1. That would be insane. It's still really good writing. I just didn't like the characters. Actually, I'll read what I wrote down because I wrote down a lot. So I said, romance novel about a travel writer and an academic. They are polar opposites. Classic, quirky girl and serious guy. They meet at University of Chicago. I can't read my writing. I'm very bad at handwriting. They meet at University of Chicago and start going on trips every summer until they hook up and it gets weird in Croatia. I think that was a spoiler. I'll write a little thing. And then they don't speak for 2 years, but then they go on vacation again to Palm Springs. Even the quotes, like I wrote them down, but I don't even want to read them. They were blah, except for this one. Okay, there were some good quotes. I'm too nice with books. Like, I just feel like if anybody writes an entire book, I'm like, how can I be mean to you? That is amazing that you were able to do that. so then I don't want to critique it. So yeah, 3 out of 5 for that one, I'm going to say. And yeah, it was my least favorite out of these nominations, and probably this entire year. Now we have our last book, which you might already know if you like do book of the month, then you already know all these nominations, so then you know what this book is going to be. But I haven't seen anybody talk about this because I think it's mainly read by like moms and older people. So obviously it's not gonna be on like BookTok, yeah, BookTok, BookTube. People aren't gonna talk about it, but they need to because it was so good. Okay. The Four Winds. I just read this book, so I'm like extra excited and I have all the thoughts in my head because I just read it. First of all, this was historical fiction, which is my favorite genre, and it takes place in the Great Depression during the Dust Bowl, and it follows this family, Elsa and her kids and her husband and his parents. But anyways, so they live in Texas in the Panhandle, and it's during the Dust Bowl, so it's about how her life just goes downhill. She's very comfortable at the start of her life and then just increasingly goes down in wealth, and that affects the rest of her life. And I love books that do that, like not rags to riches, but like riches to rags, when they start out really rich and then they become dirt poor. I love that. I think it's such an interesting story to tell. It's a thick boy. It's like 450 pages, and half of it takes place in Texas when they're still living on their farm. They're farmers with their family, and then they end up going across country west to California because that's where everybody is saying the jobs are, because right now their farm is obviously not doing well because it's the Dust Bowl, and they are not doing well for their health because they're inhaling dust, and the schools are shut down and just it's bad. So they're like, let's head west. We literally cannot survive here. Let's leave. But once they get there, they get to the like shanty camps, big camps of people that were living out of tents because they couldn't get work. And it was an interesting look at just the discrimination that happened during that time. And I feel like it was something that we didn't really talk about in school, how the like lower classes at the time lived and were treated during the Great Depression, and specifically the Dust Bowl and the people that lost their way of life because of natural events. And the ending, guys, I was in tears. I was absolutely brokenhearted at the end of this. It tore me apart and then like kind of sewed me back together, but still I'm kind of shaken by it. It was so good though. I just go read it. The detail, the writing, it was cinematic. It was, oh, the character arc. And I haven't written anything in my reading journal yet because like I said, I just read it, but I did make the little background for it and it's cute, so I'll show you. But cute. Those were my opinions on the book of the year. I think it definitely should be The Four Winds, just based on character development, writing in general, storytelling, research put into the book. Kristen Hannah, girly, I'm gonna reward you with book of the year. Yeah, I think this might be my favorite book of the year. Yeah, I'm gonna say it now. From the nominations and possibly in total. We'll reflect more on that, but it was just so good. Mwah. Then the second book I'm going to say was Razorblade Tears, down the list. Third was The Lost Apothecary. This book was also just such a feel-good book. Then fourth is Malibu Rising. And then, if you want this book, you can take it from me. I actually don't, because I have Beach Read and I want to keep her whole like collection of books. She's coming out with a new book, and Emily, you better deliver. But if you don't, I'll still read it all the way through, because I cannot DNF a book. So go read The Four Winds by Kristen Hanna. Go get a Book of the Month membership. Book of the Month, you, if you're watching this yourself, Book of the Month, I don't know, send me a free book. Me and my 23 subscribers that are all my family would really appreciate it. So thank you for watching, and I'll be back with another video soon on books or writing. I'm gonna do NaNoWriMo, so stay tuned for that, and have a great day.